Welcome to the Female Church Leaders Podcast, a weekly resource for women who love God, love the church, and are called to lead. I'm your host, Kadi Cole, church leader, author, and executive coach. After more than 30 years in full-time ministry, often as the only woman at the table, I understand how meaningful yet challenging your calling can be. That's why I created this podcast, to remind you that you're not leading alone. Each week, I'll share practical tools, biblical insights, and honest encouragement for the real challenges female leaders face in ministry, so you can grow your skills, strengthen your faith, and lead with more confidence and joy without burning out or striving to prove yourself. We drop a new episode every Monday because Sunday is coming and you are going to be ready for it. Early in my ministry career, I was often the only woman in the room. All the guys were really kind, but whenever the conversation turned strategic, I would hesitate. I knew what I wanted to say, but I wasn't sure if I should say it. I laugh about it now. I mean, it was ridiculous. I would literally whisper my idea or even a funny one-liner to the guy sitting next to me so he could say it, and he'd get the laugh that went with it. Or I'd wait for the break and tell my idea privately to the leader so he could decide whether it was worth sharing to the whole group or not. One day, my boss pulled me aside and said, "Kadi, I didn't hire you because of what you can do. I hired you because of how you think. I need you to say it yourself." And honestly, my immediate thought was, is it okay if I do that? Will everyone else be okay if I share what I think? And you know what? Mostly they were. There's always that one insecure guy that doesn't love it when I show up. By the way, insecure men are my leadership nemesis. But I had to choose to trust my leader and honor my calling from God more than I catered to someone else's discomfort. And here's what I learned. When female church leaders bring their full leadership to the table, everyone wins, especially a local church. But when we're left guessing if we belong, it's easy to shrink back. Not because we lack faith, but because we've learned to survive in systems not originally built with us in mind. Maybe you've said or felt something like this. I feel like I should be further along by now. Or I've been serving faithfully for years, but I still get overlooked. Or I love my church, but sometimes it feels like I've hit an invisible ceiling. If that's you, please hear me. You are not behind. You haven't missed your moment, and you have not wasted your gifts. If you feel stuck or overlooked, it's often because female church leaders haven't been fully resourced, not because you lack calling or ability, but because the developmental pathways around you weren't built with you in mind. Remember, Jesus always made room for us. He called women by name. He entrusted leadership and message bearing to them, and he still does today. In my experience, most female leaders in ministry don't lack calling. They lack clarity, coaching, and consistent opportunity. When I researched my book, Developing Female Leaders, we surveyed over 1,000 women in ministry, and here's what we found. 86% felt clearly called to leadership, but less than half had ever been intentionally developed as leaders. Most said they were leading in the dark or figuring it out as they went. That is not an ability gap. That is a resourcing gap. Think of it like this. Picture two trees in your mind. One tree is planted in rich soil with full sun and watered regularly. The second tree is planted in rocky soil in the shade with very little water. Now, the second tree doesn't grow slower because it's weak. It grows slower because it's under-resourced. But when female church leaders are equipped, they flourish. Teams get stronger, insight deepens, fruit multiplies. Even Jesus modeled growth for us. Luke 2:52 says he grew in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man. Now, if Jesus grew into his leadership over time, we can and should too. And that's exactly why we created Female Church Leaders Podcast and Community, to resource you with clarity, competency, and confidence so you can lead at your God-given capacity. Now listen, there is a leadership shift happening, and I want you to understand the cultural moment we get to live in. Leadership itself has fundamentally changed over the last 10 to 20 years. Harvard Business Review, Forbes, and McKinsey all report that the most effective leaders today are not authoritarian or top-down. They are collaborative, emotionally intelligent, team-oriented, empathetic, inclusive, strong communicators, and skilled at coaching and developing others. In other words, the way women have naturally been gifted by God to lead is exactly what the church needs for its future. HBR even showed women score higher on 17 of the 19 most important leadership competencies for today's world. Now, I saw this play out right in front of my eyes a few years ago. I was speaking at a national small groups conference. There were hundreds of church leaders in the room, almost all male, from churches with very few women in leadership roles. And they were wrestling with some really big ministry challenges: how to engage whole families in spiritual formation, building deeper relational connections in small groups, strengthening a sense of community and people feeling known at their church, caring for the emotional and spiritual needs of the congregation, and creating sustainable volunteer systems. And I sat there thinking, these are the exact leadership strengths female church leaders naturally bring. But they could not see how their leadership structures and systems were blocking the very solutions God had already provided through the gifts of the women in their own churches. But listen, here's the hopeful part. Right now, I get to work with hundreds of churches and thousands of leaders across theological backgrounds, and I see a movement happening. Churches are reevaluating leadership pipelines, naming cultural blind spots, broadening development opportunities, looking to see where women's gifts are missing from their church, and they are committing to steward the leadership God has already placed in their congregations. This isn't about culture wars. It's about kingdom stewardship, and more churches are committed to doing better than ever before. It is not a mistake that you have been called up into church leadership for this time and place in history. This cultural moment is a gift. We are the first generation of fully educated women in history. We are living longer, healthier lives than ever before. We have more leadership opportunities before, during, and after motherhood than any woman ever before us. And seminaries across the country are reporting increasing numbers of women, and many report more women than men graduating with ministry-related degrees. This is not a coincidence. God is raising up female leaders for this moment. Not so we can take over. A church run by all women is not any healthier than a church run only by men. God has called us to lead together. Now, I am excited that more and more opportunities are opening across churches, denominations, and ministry settings. But listen, we must be just as committed to strengthening our own leadership capacity. Yes, we have grown up in systems that have created some developmental gaps in our leadership. Yes, we've missed out on opportunities and have often been overlooked. Yes, that is incredibly unfair. But it is absolutely possible to overcome these challenges. We can close those leadership gaps. Listen to me. You are not behind. You are right where God wants you. You are right where you are supposed to be. I'm not talking about striving. I'm not talking about living stressed out. I'm talking about godly stewardship. Because listen, if the problem isn't your capacity or your gifting or your ability, but your resourcing, there are things you can do about it. I want to give you 3 practical steps you can take this week to move forward in your own development. Step number 1, identify your growth gap. Ask yourself, where do I consistently feel least confident? Look for patterns of where your growth gap might be, not just a single moment, not just one person that annoys you, but look for the patterns. Maybe it's handling conflict, holding people accountable, or having conversations around the budget. If you could strengthen one skill this year that could change everything in your leadership, which one would it be? Step number 2, get honest feedback. Confidence issues can distort your self-perception. So ask a couple trusted people for clear, kind, and specific input. Many women I coach are insecure in areas where they're actually gifted, but they're blind to the areas that need development. So when people tell you what they see, please believe them. Don't dismiss compliments or encouragement. That is actually very helpful data too. You will grow faster by investing your energy where you actually need development, not only where you feel uncertain. And step number 3, know what you need, and ask for it. Now, if you're newer to leadership, you can totally start with books or podcasts or learning from someone who already does this well. But if you have been leading for a while, it's probably time to move beyond the free category. Real development requires time, attention, and often money. The guys are investing in their ministry careers in this way, and we need to also. So please ask your church to invest in your growth. Negotiate creative solutions. Maybe you can invest in it partly and they invest in it partly. And if resources are still limited, then let's join together and ask God. He does not call us and then leave us unequipped. I know he will not do that. But he often asks, just like he did with Bartimaeus, what do you want me to do for you? He's going to want us to name it and then ask boldly in faith. When we do that, we shift from waiting mode into stewardship mode. So step 1, identify your growth gap. Step 2, get honest feedback. And step 3, know what you need and ask for it. Proverbs 31:17 says, she sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her tasks. Her strength didn't come from striving. It came from being resourced for what God had asked her to do. You don't need to hustle harder. You need to be fully equipped for the work God has already entrusted to you. And here's the truth. God may not reduce the challenges in front of you, no matter how much we pray for it, but he will absolutely increase the strength and capacity within you. Now is the time, leaders, to invest in your growth and prepare for what God has given you to steward now and for the doors he is opening for you in the future. The church needs you and the kingdom is counting on you. If today stirred something in you, take the Sticky Floor quiz at femalechurchleaders.com. It will help you identify the internal barrier that might be slowing down your next step in leadership. You're not behind, friend. You are just getting started, and we are here to cheer you on. I'm so glad we got to spend this time together on the Female Church Leaders podcast. I hope you're walking away encouraged, equipped, and reminded that your calling truly matters. To keep growing, join us for our next Closing the Leadership Gap cohort at closingtheleadershipgap.com. It's a guided coaching experience, including live Q&A with me, designed to accelerate your leadership journey. If this podcast has been helpful to you, would you please take a moment to follow, rate, and share it? Your engagement helps the algorithms suggest our resources to female church leaders we haven't had a chance to meet yet. And don't forget to follow at Female Church Leaders on Instagram for encouragement and leadership tools designed just for you. You can also follow my personal feed at Kadi Cole, spelled KadiCole. Keep leading faithfully, keep growing your leadership gifts, and I'll see you next Monday because Sunday is coming and you are going to be ready for it.